Have you ever had that moment? You know the one, you're sitting at your desk, staring at your computer screen, watching another email load, when suddenly everything just stops. And in that frozen moment, this thought crashes into your mind. What's the point of all this? We spend our lives chasing promotions we don't really want, to buy things we don't really need, to impress people we don't really like. We set goals, achieve them, set bigger ones. An endless cycle of reaching for what's next. But here's the question that changes everything. What if I told you that the very meaninglessness you're running from could be the key to creating the most authentic purpose you've ever known? In 1942, a philosopher named Albert Camus looked into this abyss of meaninglessness and found something unexpected. Not an answer, but a rebellion. What he discovered might just change the way you think about purpose forever. See, we've been sold this idea that purpose has to be some grand cosmic thing, something written in the stars or coded into our DNA. But what if that's exactly what's been holding us back? What if the absence of meaning isn't a curse, but a canvas? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how the most counterintuitive philosophical idea of the 20th century could be exactly what you need to stop searching for purpose and start creating it. And trust me, by the end of this video, that existential dread you feel, it might just become your superpower. But first, we need to understand how we got here, and why everything you think you know about finding purpose might be exactly what's stopping you from creating it. Imagine trying to have a deep conversation with a wall. You ask questions, pour out your heart, demand answers, and all you get back is silence. Frustrating, right? This is exactly what Camus realized we're all doing with the universe itself. We're conscious beings in an unconscious universe. We desperately want meaning, purpose, answers, but the universe just keeps expanding, stars keep burning, planets keep spinning, completely indifferent to our existence. This clash between our demand for meaning and the universe's silence. Camus called it the absurd. Camus didn't discover this in some ivory tower. He found it in the chaos of World War II, fighting in the French resistance, watching civilization tear itself apart. In those darkest moments, he saw something that others had missed. When people realize life might be meaningless, they usually do one of three things. Some choose suicide, rejecting a meaningless life entirely. Others make what Camus called philosophical suicide. They leap into blind faith or false certainty, desperately clinging to made-up meaning. And then there are those who just give up, falling into nihilism, believing that if nothing matters, why do anything at all? But Camus suggested something radical. What if we embraced the absurd instead of trying to escape it? Think about children at play. They don't need their game to have cosmic significance. They don't need it to last forever. They play simply because they choose to, finding joy in the moment despite, or perhaps because of, its temporary nature. This is what Camus meant when he said we must imagine Sisyphus happy. It's not about finding meaning. It's about creating purpose through the very act of engagement. The painter doesn't paint because the universe demands it. The musician doesn't play because it serves some cosmic plan. They do it because they choose to, because the act itself becomes their purpose. When you stop demanding the universe explain itself to you, something extraordinary happens. You're free to create purpose on your own terms. That sunrise doesn't need to have cosmic significance to be beautiful. That cup of coffee doesn't need to serve some grand design to be worth savoring. But here's where it gets really interesting, and where most people misunderstand Camus completely. This isn't about giving up or settling for less. It's about rebellion. Every time you choose to create purpose in a purposeless universe, you're engaging in an act of rebellion against meaninglessness itself. This is the paradox that Camus discovered. True purpose isn't found in grand cosmic meanings or divine plans. It's created in the very act of living, choosing, and engaging with life despite its lack of inherent meaning. But this raises a crucial question. How do we actually do this? How do we transform this philosophical insight into a practical way of living? That's where things get really interesting. Freedom. Real freedom. Not the kind that comes from having all the answers, but the kind that comes from accepting that some questions don't have answers at all. This is where absurdism becomes not just a philosophy, but a way of life. Remember all those should statements that have been haunting you? I should have my life figured out by now. I should know my purpose. I should be further along in my career. What if I told you that the very meaninglessness of life is what frees you from these prison bars you've built in your mind? You see, when you truly understand that the universe doesn't have a pre-written script for your life, something remarkable happens. You stop being a character searching for your lines, and you become the author of your own story. This is what Camus called lucid freedom, the power that comes from seeing reality exactly as it is. Let me show you the 3 pillars of created purpose that emerge from this understanding. I call them the trinity of absurdist freedom. First, there's authentic choice. When you realize there's no cosmic right answer, every choice becomes yours to make. Not because it's written in the stars, but because you consciously choose it. Your job isn't your purpose because the universe ordained it. It becomes your purpose when you actively choose to pour yourself into it. The second pillar is present engagement. Think about the last time you were so absorbed in something that you forgot about time itself. Maybe it was cooking, or painting, or solving a problem. That state of full engagement, that's not just flow, that's you creating purpose in real time. You're not waiting for meaning to descend from above, you're generating it through your engagement with life. And finally, there's what Camus called rebellious joy. This might be the most powerful one of all. Every time you choose to find joy in a meaningless universe, you're committing an act of rebellion. Your happiness becomes a defiant yes in the face of absurdity. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, but what about when life gets really hard? What about failure, loss, disappointment? This is where absurdism really shows its power. Because when you stop expecting the universe to be fair or meaningful, you stop being shocked when it isn't. Think about it this way. If nothing has inherent meaning, then failure isn't cosmic punishment. Success isn't divine blessing. They're just events, blank canvases waiting for you to paint them with whatever meaning you choose. That rejection letter from your dream job. In a meaningless universe, it's not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's just an event that you get to interpret. That relationship that ended. It's not a cosmic judgment of your worth. It's an experience you can use to create your own meaning. But this isn't just philosophical theory. It's a practical approach to living. And in our next section, I'm going to show you exactly how to apply these principles to transform your daily life, starting with the very next decision you make. Philosophy without practice is like a map without a journey. So let's take these powerful ideas and turn them into something you can use, starting today. I'm going to share 4 practical techniques that transform absurdist philosophy into daily wisdom. The first practice is what I call the morning rebellion. Most of us wake up and immediately check our phones, immediately plugging back into the world's definition of what matters. Instead, take 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, to sit with the absurdity of existence. Look out your window at the world going about its business. Remember that none of it has inherent meaning, and in that space of freedom, consciously choose what will matter to you today. The second practice is the Sisyphean smile. When you face a challenge or setback, pause and remember Camus' vision of Sisyphus walking back down the mountain. The rock has rolled down again. Of course it has. That's what rocks do. Your power lies not in preventing the fall, but in how you walk back down to start again. Take a breath, smile at the absurdity of it all, and begin again. This isn't toxic positivity, it's rebellious acceptance. Our third practice is what I call the purpose pivot. When facing a decision, most people ask, "What should I do?" Or, "What's the right choice?" These questions assume there's some cosmic right answer. Instead, try asking, "What do I choose to make meaningful?" This subtle shift transforms decision-making from a search for external validation into an act of personal creation. The fourth practice is perhaps the most powerful: present purpose creation. Choose one daily activity, something you usually rush through or do on autopilot. It could be making coffee, walking to your car, or washing dishes. Now approach it as if you had chosen this activity as your life's purpose. Pour yourself fully into the experience. Notice every sensation, every movement. You're not doing this because it's important in some cosmic sense. You're making it important through your complete engagement. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But what about the big questions? What about career choices, relationships, life goals? Here's where absurdism becomes truly revolutionary. Instead of asking, "What is my purpose?" Ask, what purpose am I creating right now? Your career isn't meaningful because it's your true calling. It's meaningful because you choose to pour yourself into it. Your relationships aren't significant because they're meant to be. They're significant because you actively decide to make them matter. Your goals aren't important because they're part of some grand design. They're important because you consciously invest them with meaning. When you start applying these practices, you'll notice something fascinating. The weight of having to find your purpose lifts off your shoulders. Instead, you'll discover the joy of creating purpose in every moment, in every choice, in every interaction. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, one last insight that brings it all together. And it might just be the most liberating truth of all. Remember that person staring at their computer screen, wondering about the point of it all? That moment of existential crisis that brought you to this video? Look at it again, but this time through the lens of what we've discovered together. That crisis wasn't a sign that something was wrong with your life. It wasn't evidence that you'd failed to find your purpose. It was an invitation to wake up to the most liberating truth of all. You are not a purpose finder, you are a purpose creator. Every day, all around us, people are creating purpose without realizing it. The teacher who chooses to see meaning in each lesson, not because education is inherently meaningful, but because they decide to make it so. The artist who pours themselves into their work, not because art will save the world, but because they choose to make beauty in a beautiful-less universe. The parent who finds purpose in a simple moment with their child, not because parenting is their cosmic destiny, but because they actively invest that moment with meaning. This is the profound paradox that Camus discovered and that we've explored together. The universe's meaninglessness is not our prison, it's our canvas. Every morning when you wake up, you're not starting another meaningless day. You're beginning with a blank canvas, free to create whatever purpose you choose. We've been taught to think of purpose as something we find, like a treasure at the end of a long quest. But what if the purpose is more like music? A musician doesn't find music, they create it. They take the meaningless vibration of air and transform it into something beautiful. That's what you're doing every time you choose to invest a moment with meaning. The universe doesn't care about your morning coffee ritual, but you can choose to make it meaningful. The stars are indifferent to your career goals, but you can fill them with purpose. Your relationships don't have cosmic significance, but you can create profound meaning in every interaction. This is real freedom. Not the freedom that comes from finding the right answer, but the freedom that comes from realizing there is no right answer. Not the peace that comes from certainty, but the peace that comes from embracing uncertainty. Not the purpose that's given to you, but the purpose you create for yourself. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, remember, you're not starting another day in search of purpose. You're beginning another day of purpose creation. The universe may be silent, but your life can be full of meaning. Not because it's given to you from above, but because you choose to create it from within. In a world that's constantly trying to sell you meaning, be the one who creates it. In a universe that offers no answers, be the one who writes your own story. In the face of absurdity, be the one who smiles and creates purpose anyway. If this perspective has shifted something in you, share it with someone who might be wrestling with these same questions. And in the comments below, tell me, what purpose will you choose to create today?